So welcome today, everyone. I'm Elise Washington, and I'm a project manager who's supporting the Missouri Healthy Schools program. Missouri Healthy Schools provides students with lifelong learning advantages built on early positive health behaviors to improve conditions for academic achievement. I encourage you to check out mohealthyschools.com for more info, and we'll also drop that in the chat at some point. Today, I'm so excited to welcome our panelists for a National Nutrition Month webinar. I'll be briefly introduce our panelists and then ask that they go in that same order to just share some additional information about their school district's food service program. So today we have Laurie Danella. She's the nutrition director for Lee's Summit R7 School District. She holds a bachelor's in nutrition and a master's in management and leadership. She is SNA certified and is a ServSafe proctor and instructor, as well as an SNA credential proctor, and has been in school food service for 23 years. Paul Becker has been the Director of School Nutrition Services at Fort Zumwalt School District for the last 15 years. Since joining the team, Paul and his colleagues built 4 coffee shops. He oversees 66 vending machines, supervises 170 plus employees, and manages a $3 million budget. Joyce Fenner is the Director of Food Services for Mexico 59 School District, and this is her 8th year in public school food service. Prior to that, she worked in K-12 schools and universities as food service director and executive chef. Before coming to public schools, she worked for 20 years in long-term care as a certified dietary manager and food protection professional. She's been a member of SNA for about 7 years, and this is her 6th year serving on the state board. Mindy Reckling is an SNA member with a passion for serving children fun and healthy food. She has 25 years of management experience and has worked as the Director of Nutrition for the Kennett School District for the last 5 years. Deanna Hill has been working for Rittner School District since 2004. She began as the Child Nutrition Supervisor, and after the previous Director of Child Nutrition retired, she was asked to step in as Interim Director and has been Interim Director since the 2019-2020 school year. Before she came to Rittner, she worked in healthcare systems for 11 years in food service management. And finally, we have Jill Mori. She's worked in all aspects of the food industry, including being a general manager of a pasta house co. In Branson, Missouri. She's in her 16th year as the food service director for Branson School District. She received her SNA certification in 2009 and is an active member in both SNA and Missouri SNA. And she's been a Missouri SNA board member since 2008, serving in multiple leadership roles. So Laurie, I'm going to ask that you go first, and you guys can kind of go in the order I introduced you. I'll drop that in the chat as well. And if you can just tell us briefly about your school district.
Good morning, everyone. Lee Summit is a suburban school district with an enrollment of a little over 18,000, and we are right at 20% free and reduced. Currently, we have K through 6 back in session 5 days a week. 7 through 12 is in session Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday and Friday. They're off on Wednesdays. And we continue to offer curbside on Wednesdays for all students that are virtual, enrolled in our online academy, and for the students that are off on Wednesdays. Some of our high-level successes that we've had is we've built relationships with our parents and partnerships with our community since COVID and the pandemic. I feel that we're respected now for what we do, and they have a better understanding of what we provide and actually how healthy our meals are. And we're seeing our participation numbers go up. Another success is our team has really came together. We have 180 team members. And all through this, we had, in the beginning, I had about 40 volunteers that worked. Our district paid everyone, but they chose whether they wanted to work or not. And we've been through Plan A through Z and probably through Plan A and Plan Z again. They've learned the flexibility, the patience, and being able to turn on a dime. They worked in snow, sleet, 100-degree days, even minus 10-degree days. They've seen every weather imaginable, and they didn't complain about it. They kept their smiles and kept on serving the kids. Some of the challenges we had was basically like everybody else in the beginning, finding shelf-stable products, produce items, packaging, bagging, that type of thing. I was fortunate because we do have our own warehouse. So when we started getting word that we might close, I placed some pretty big orders and ordered gloves by the pallet and bags by the pallet. So we were in pretty good shape in the beginning. But as time went on, there were items that we had a hard time getting. And when vendors start putting a limit on items, that hurt us because the volume we were serving, I might get half of what I ordered. And then the biggest challenge for us is a la carte sales. We're a district that depends on our a la carte sales. And in a normal year, we do 1.2 million to 1.3 million in a la carte sales. And as of today, this year, we're at 68,000. So we're really going to be hurting in that aspect. And that's what we purchase our equipment with, our uniforms and other items we need. So that's kind of it in a nutshell for Lee Summit.
Paul, we'll have you go next.
Hi, good morning. Fort Zumwalt is located right outside St. Louis and St. Charles County. We have enrollment about 18,500 with 20% free reduced. We actually have been serving normally 5 days a week since August. We do have some virtual feeding that we do, but majority of our kids are in our district currently. Just to give you some comparable numbers, last year we did 7,250 reimbursable meals per day for lunch, and now we're down to about 4,000. And for breakfast, we normally do about 2,000, and this year we're doing about 820. So we definitely decreased quite a bit. We do have some challenges like everybody else, staffing, amount of openings that we have, especially part-time workers, and then the quarantine individuals. Food quality has been a challenge. When you think about all the things that you're wrapping and putting in containers, that has been a huge challenge and something that all of us are learning as we go along. Price increases for everything. I mean, what we used to think what we'd pay normally for food that was not individually wrapped or something we didn't have to put in a container. Now you have to add all those costs into your all into your budget that was not there before. And some of our successes, we definitely, I have to give big shout out to staff regarding their flexibility. They come in days that they're not sure if they think they're going to get COVID or not, moving staff around, they working different hours, sometimes weekends. And then another success we has is higher than expected meal count, considering the circumstances we had. A lot of kids were bringing meals in the very beginning in August. They weren't sure how things were going to go. And I think we surprised ourselves with the amount of kids coming in there. So I appreciate some of those successes we've had.
Thank you, Paul. Next, we'll have Joyce.
Good morning. I'm with Mexico Public Schools, and we're located about 40 miles from Columbia, if you don't know where Mexico is. We have an enrollment of about 2,500 students, so we're one of the smaller districts, I think, on this panel. We have 3 elementary schools, 1 middle school, that's grades 5 through 8, and 1 high school, and then a career center. Our district is approximately 60-65% free and reduced, and we are CEP on all of our grades up through 8th grade. High school is not. We are mostly in seat. We do have some students that are doing distance learning, have been since the beginning of the school year. We offer curbside pickup at our high school and our middle school, just for convenience and kind of location. And we do that 2 days a week. On Mondays, they pick up for 2 days, and on Wednesdays, they pick up for 3 days, breakfast and lunch. First semester, we had about 50 families on average that were participating in the curbside pickup. This semester, we only have about 10 or 15 or so families on average that are picking up, but that's mainly because a lot of kids that were distance learning first semester went back to in-seat for second semester. So, but we still offer that for anybody that needs it. For the in-seat students, we are serving grab-and-go breakfast daily. We're set up at the elementary schools depends on where the students come into the building. We have tables set up at the entrances for parent drop-off and for bus drop-off. If that is 2 different locations, we have tables set up. So actually our breakfast participation is up from past years. Which is, kind of one of the good things from something that was a necessity. The kids do take the meals back to the classroom with them. At the middle school, they are coming through the line. It works well because of where the cafeteria is located. They do go back they come through, they grab a breakfast bag, a milk, and go on to class. The high school is the only building they are staying in the cafeteria at breakfast. with the chairs spaced appropriately. At lunch, everybody's going back to the classrooms. They are coming through the lines in the cafeteria. We are doing hot lunches and all that. The first couple weeks or so of school, we were doing just cold sack lunches until everybody got their feet on the ground. The high school, they are eating in the cafeteria or the gym. They're alternating kind of every other group as they come through. They're in all the buildings, they're coming through by classroom and then going on to where they're going to go eat. It's actually been pretty successful. Of course, we've also had to make, dozens of alterations to our plans and then alterations to the alterations, just like everybody else has. The main struggle was probably just timing, getting the kids through as quickly as we could with maintaining the social distancing and the close contact distancing as much as possible. Success is just everybody coming together. It's been just great that everybody in the district, everybody in the community, all of the leaders, the administrators, the superintendent, everybody was like, hey, where do you need us? Roll up our sleeves. We're going to come in and help make sandwiches if we need to. But of course, the food service staff, I cannot say enough awesome things about our food service staff. There was never the attitude of, well, don't know how we're going to do this, or we can't do this. It was, let's do it. What do we need? What can I do? How can I help? Staff are working at different buildings than they normally work at, which of course is always kind of a frustration, but everybody worked together and just got it done. So that's kind of where we are in Mexico.
Thank you, Joyce. Mindy, we'll have you talk next.
Good morning. The Kennett School District is composed of 4 buildings, 2 elementaries, 1 middle school, and a high school. Kennett has approximately 1,900 students, and we are 100% free through.
Mindy, I think you muted yourself on accident. Sorry to cut you off.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. We heard that you're a school district of 1,900 students. That was where it's.
And we're 100% free through CP. Currently, we serve breakfast in the classroom at all campuses, and we serve lunch in the classroom at our elementaries and the middle school. School students go to the cafeteria and pick up their tray and go back to their classrooms. Kennett serves a snack and supper at the middle school and high school. The middle school meals are delivered, and high school students social distance in the cafeteria. All meals are served in styrofoam trays. We still offer curbside daily. Our success during COVID has been the partnership between OPA and the school district to continue to provide meals during school closure, for weekends, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and again on spring break. Through OPA's extensive training and safety measures, we have not had to quarantine our staff. We have had an abundance of supplies through communication with distributors. We have adapted to change and maintained a full work staff. Our biggest challenge during the pandemic has consisted of keeping hot food hot and cold food cold. By constantly adapting, we've overcome this challenge. Our goal for the 2021 school year is to return to full tray service while maintaining a safe cafeteria for all of our students.
Thank you, Mindy. Definitely heard some successes in there. That's great. And then we'll have Deanna.
Good morning. It's Dina Hill at Rittner School District, and we have about 6,300 to 6,400 kids. We have 6 elementary, 2 middle schools, and 1 high school. We have pre-kindergarten. We also have a school for early childhood center as well, and they've been since August 5 days a week, all day long, just with a minimal enrollment. But kindergarten through 8th grade, they were going cohort A and B, so they were going 2 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and then off on Friday. Well, not off on Fridays, but asynchronous day on Friday or virtual day on Fridays. And starting April 5th, kindergarten and through 8th grade will be coming back 4 days a week. for breakfast and lunch. And so that'll help us out a little bit on participation as well. But our high school has been 4 days a week, most of them. About 500 kids came back and the rest are virtual right now. We have a lot of kids on virtual at this point in time, but we have we'll have about 300 or so kids in each one of our elementary schools, which helps a little bit, but we still have a lot on virtual there too. So middle school, about 500 kids will come back out of about 700. So that's not bad. But high school, we have about 1,600 kids and only about 500 are back. So we'll see how that rolls come April 5th if more families end up coming back, but I don't think that they are. We do virtual meals every day. They can go to every single location and pick up a meal if they want to. And then on Fridays, we do a bus service where they go to the bus stops on Fridays and then they pick up their meals virtually that way. We keep the bus drivers working as well. So that's why we do the bus stop still on Fridays, because they don't want to pay the bus drivers to not do anything on Fridays. So that's where we are there. And we are a CEP school. But we've elected to do SSO, the seamless summer option, to get a little more money back in reimbursements. So meal counts are down drastically from last year to this year. And so our department, unfortunately, is in the hole. But we've been in the hole the last 3 years anyway. So now we're even deeper, but we'll get there. Takes about 6 or 7 years to come back. So hopefully we're going to come back strong in August. And then the plan for the district is to actually go 5 days a week at least. And then we'll have about 6,300 kids coming back and maybe 900 kids they are thinking will stay virtual. But hopefully the 6,300 kids will come back and then we can build our participation back up. So that's where we are in a nutshell.
Thank you, Dina. And sorry about the mispronunciation. I hate it.
Oh, it's no big deal.
Elsie,
Everybody
so I
does
know,
it.
I know how that can be. And then Jill.
Good morning, everyone. As I'm sure everybody knows, Branson Public Schools is located in Southwest Missouri and is a nationally known tourist destination. Our district's enrollment generally fluctuates between 4,850 students to 4,900 students, because although we're not really a farming community, we are very migrant in the fact that a lot of people come and go because we have so many service industry jobs in our area. We did come back this school year to 5 days a week seated learning. Parents had the option of putting their kids in the virtual program. I think about 850 started off that way. I think within a few weeks, a few hundred came back. And our district is really pushed for seated learning. So we've already got back the majority of those students, with only a couple hundred still out across the district. We have 8 schools in our district, with one of them being an alternative school that we shuttle meals to daily. Our campuses are not within neighborhoods. So we have campus, North and South Campus, where the buildings are grouped together. Right now, we have about 60% free and reduced on average the last several years for our district, and our employees, we've got about 52 and about a $2.3 million budget. For us, COVID really turned out to be kind of a blessing in what it allowed us to start doing. And that was my dream of starting breakfast in the classroom, something I've been advocating for since 2012. Every year I had advocated for it because I felt like it was the best thing for our kids. But our superintendents had some concerns about what that might mean for teachers, that they'd have to be in the classrooms earlier instead of, having the kids housed in the gymnasium. And when your kids are housed in the gymnasium to start the day, you're competing with fun, and it's really hard to get the kids out of there and into the classroom. So fortunately, I implemented breakfast in the classroom during summer school, and it gave us an opportunity to figure out what would work best for us and best practices for implementing that. And so when the pandemic hit and everything changed, I at least had a heads up on how I might do breakfast in the classroom. And again, that's really been fantastic for us because we've actually seen our breakfast numbers double by having kids be served every day in the classroom. It's been really shocking. My girls are like, oh my gosh, we've had to adjust hours and add people to the morning session so that we've got enough people to be able to build it all, because there's just so much to do. So it's really been a huge success. We've done breakfast in the classroom pre-K through 6th grade. And then with our junior high students and our high school students, we still have them come to the cafeteria, but instead of eating there, we have it in a grab and go format. So they can quickly pick up the components that they want, and then they just carry it back to the classroom with them, and then they can eat in the classroom. Some of our challenges, really the biggest challenge with breakfast in the classroom was for the teachers that have never worked summer school and felt like it was too messy and they didn't really care for it. But one of our principals at our last admin meeting, our superintendent asked us, he said, so what have you learned from the pandemic and what is some of the practices that you don't want to change? And one of our principals spoke up pretty quickly and he said, I don't ever want to have the kids held in the gymnasium again. Something I've been advocating for a long time. But he said, the kids come into the classroom, they come into the building, they go straight to the classroom, we serve them breakfast, and the kids are calmer. It's different. It is just like the foundation is there, which I've been wanting for a long time, that, you know, everything, all the studies out there tell us that kids are calmer, discipline's down, you know, kids are coming to school because they're getting fed. And that has really been the case for us. And again, those numbers have gone up. I've been showing the numbers and I felt like that it would be there. And it's proven to be true. So right now I feel really positive that this may turn into a long-term process for us, and that we may be able to keep that breakfast in the classroom and keep it free for the kids, whether or not they fund it for us. We may just choose not to charge the kids for breakfast. So that's us.
Wow, and that's such a fun success and an unexpected one to have. So excited to hear, you know, if that's maintained after COVID. But I saw several of the other panelists nodding when you were saying the kids are calmer when they don't gather them to start the day off. So next, I am going to try a couple of poll questions for our attendees. Now, this is my first time using webinar polls, so we're going to troubleshoot this, but I think it'll be good where I'll launch a poll and then give it about 15, 20 seconds. They shouldn't take too long, 30 seconds maybe, for the audience members to answer. And it can just give our panelists some sense of how the folks who are attending this webinar, how they are serving in their district. And that might help us as we frame our next questions. So I'm going to launch this first one. And it's, is your district still serving meals curbside? Oh, good. People are answering, so I know they can see it. I'll give you just a few more seconds. Okay, so I'm going to close that poll and I'm going to share it. So this shows we had a few different options here. Yes, only serving curbside, which it looks like a smaller percentage are doing that. It sounds like many reflect what we heard from the panelists, that they're serving a mix of curbside and other options. That's what I think is a very common theme, that we have some of these hybrid programs. About a third of respondents aren't serving curbside at all. And then we have a few other models happening. We have one more poll question I'm going to try. Let's see. Okay, and it's, what are the ways your district is serving meals to students? So if it is that hybrid, and this one you should be able to select multiple choices, I hope. And so we'll get a sense of like, what's the most common serving method. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that one and I'll share the results as well. So it looks like a lot are serving in the cafeteria too, even if it's some spaced out. I heard it specifically in high schools. That seems to be common among the panelists. A few doing in the classroom is one of their options. Fewer home delivery, which makes sense, I think, because of the resources needed to home deliver meals. And then, as we saw, a mixture of curbside or in other areas of the school. Well, thank you guys for letting me kind of guinea pig on you to look at that, but it lets us know kind of who's in the room, the virtual room with us. And I want to encourage the audience, we're going to open it up to questions so that you can start dropping questions either in the chat or there is a Q&A box for you to use. I wanted to start with one question to kind of get us going, and then we'll see what the audience has to ask. But one common theme I heard from a few of you was the flexibility and patience of the staff. You know, how much of a role that played in how you feel was success or potentially a challenge if there was some resistance to some of the changes that had to be made. So I'm curious if there were ways you or your district specifically supported your staff. What were the methods used? And this can be open to anyone who'd like to respond.
Well, I'll just say that we tried to have a little bit of fun with it. I was really blessed to have 5 employees pretty quickly step up and say that they were willing to work every day, no matter what it took. And this was a team from my junior high crew that are friends, and they just really love working and they love eating and preparing food. So every day people were bringing different foods in, so we had something to eat. Because we weren't cooking the foods that we were serving during the pandemic. We were mainly bagging things up and then, you know, giving directions so parents could cook things at home. And so that just was kind of fun, just even that daily meal that we would have and sharing it with everybody. So I don't know, it didn't matter if it was just basic donuts that we were hauling in or somebody was cooking things from home, but everybody just kind of participated and enjoyed that part.
I'll share next. I had about 40 staff members out of 180 that worked almost every day during the summer. In the beginning, I had suggested to my operations superintendent that I was going to provide pizza for them on Fridays, for them and the bus drivers both. Well, that kind of took hold in our district, and then we had like the elementary department want to provide pizza one Friday, and then secondary. So we had almost every Friday filled with some type of food. And then we had several churches. We had one that brought us Olive Garden one day, and then we had several. I mean, it was amazing, you know, that we didn't have to actually prepare our own food to eat for those days. But also I tried to do little tokens of appreciation. There were days that if it was a really rough day, there was one day we packed 25,000 meals in one day and had them to go out before 10. I got little wisp and put Hershey Kisses in them and gave them to the, you know, the employees that were working. And there were just different little things I tried to do. They got a lot of cards from the families, what they were doing curbside. They got potted plants. They got a lot of really cute little things, and those little things meant more to them than anything. So we just had a good time, and we were there for the kids and did what it took.
Okay, so somebody did ask in the Q&A, I saw, what district is Jill with? Great success for in the breakfast. So she's with the Branson R4 school district.
Correct.
And I will at the end put up the slide again that we had at the opening that has everyone's email addresses. And all of the panelists have given permission for anyone in the audience to follow up with them if they want to connect one-on-one about their programs. We do have another question in the Q&A. So what practices, such as breakfast in the classroom, do you think will continue into the next year or be made permanent? Any strong senses on those? And this one can kind of go to anyone.
Well, I'll answer. I hope that we also stay with breakfast in the classroom, just because we have our breakfast participation has increased, especially at the elementary schools. When they're handed a breakfast as they come in the door, it's, you know, a lot more convenient than, as Jill said, competing with fun. They go to the gym, get to run around and play. They don't care about breakfast till they get to class, and then they're crying that their belly hurts or whatever. So I'm really hoping that sticks. I'm going to push hard for that.
And at Rittner, oh, sorry. At Rittner, we also implemented breakfast in the classroom, especially in the elementary level and the middle school levels as well. We just did a little different, but now we're going to be continuing to do them at the doors with more kids coming in starting April 5th. But it's really been a better participation for us too. Hopefully we can keep to it.
And one other piece I would just say is that when I've been advocating for that breakfast in the classroom, I've been sharing data with our superintendents for the last, like I said, several years since 2012, showing them the number of students on free and reduced meals that have not been picking up those trays on a daily basis. And on any given day, kindergarten through sixth grade, we'll have 700 kids in this district, kindergarten through sixth grade, that don't take advantage of that free meal. Like, that is huge to me. And I know that a lot of it is I'm competing with funds. Some of those kids, I know there's going to be a certain amount of absenteeism with them. And then of course there's a certain amount, maybe they get dropped off too late, but I guarantee you they're not eating breakfast at home, or at least not something of quality like we can offer. So instead of going, we did the Department of Health Senior Services feeding program. And instead of doing the little hash sheets this year, I decided that I wanted to capture that data. Who's going to really be eating with us? So we have been actually tracking it all and putting it into our point of sale system so that we know how many of the kids on free, reduced, and full pay have been eating. And I'll be able to use that data again to be able to support the fact that we're going to be able to financially continue this, and it's not going to hurt our program, and it's going to give those kids that foundation that they need. So I just think that's really good data for them. And again, they've seen that the kids will eat if it's free.
I'd like to piggyback off what Jill's talking about. I started back in 2010 working with Fuel Up to Play 60 and Midwest Dairy on implementing grab and go in the classroom. So we've had all of our schools since at least 2014, and I had so much resistance. We fought about it with the principals, with the teachers, that it wasn't their job to do. But we were going to discontinue several of our breakfast operations, because when you have 2 kids come to the cafeteria to get breakfast in the morning and you have a building of 500, something's wrong. And I had really stressed to them that it was a status situation. The free and reduced kids were the ones known to go to the cafeteria in the morning for breakfast, so they just didn't go. And our counts went up. We actually won several awards within the first couple of years of doing grab and go, because we have our cart set up right at the beginning of the doorway, and all 18 of our elementaries and 3 middle schools have done grab and go. So we really didn't have any adjustment on that. And the thing that I found really funny, and it was just a personal thing for me that wanted to say, yeah, we've always been right, is the one principal I had the most problems with grab and go breakfast and all of her teachers. She was the one, and still we are feeding all 600 of her kids in the classroom right now for breakfast and lunch. And she was the one that was fighting and didn't want grab and go breakfast in the classroom. So that was kind of a little personal victory right there. She's trying to keep her COVID numbers down, and she's doing pretty good at it, but that was just a little personal success.
I'd have to say that some of the things that we would keep next year, probably more staffing efficiencies. We have less staff, we have lots of openings, and I think that's kind of following the food service industry in general. This is going to be a problem in the future. So some of this might be streamlined menus. This could be when you guys are talking about with the breakfast in classroom and breakfast to go. Those things can help streamline your menu and keep some of your staffing down. But that also means we might be using disposable trays in the future, because I might not even have staff to wash the dishes. So that's what we're going to be looking at, is how I can run kitchens at bare bones skeleton crew, and thinking that's what we might be having to do to keep moving into the future, because we can have everything we want in a menu, but if you don't have staff, it's not going to happen.
I think that really lends itself. We had a question in the Q&A, Paul. It's a great transition, talking about recruiting staff. And it says, we're struggling with recruiting staff for our open positions. So what recruitment methods have you all had success with, or perhaps not had success with? It sounds like in a couple of cases. Is this a problem across the districts?
I think it's across the nation. Right now we're competing with people getting to stay home and possibly make more money on unemployment that we're able to pay them. So in Branson, I've struggled the last several years with hiring staff, because wages have gone up naturally in the area because there's not enough people for all the jobs that we had over the last 4 years. So it really made a big change. I just always try to hire plenty of subs and, transition those folks into regular paying jobs whenever possible. But it has certainly been a challenge this year. Our superintendents have been in kitchens serving food, because we have not had enough people to scoop it when we started the year off and we had so many people in quarantine and stuff. Now that they've lessened some of those regulations, it has not been as bad since Christmas time. But I think staffing challenges are going to continue on. for at least the first half of next school year too, until some of that extra money goes away for people and regular positions are filled within our community.
Mm-hmm. And somebody commented in the chat that they're using a temp agency. Is that something other districts have done?
We tried that, but you still have to have them fingerprinted, and they struggled to actually meet the requirements for us. So we actually, and they said they were, and then we found out after about 6 months or a year that they actually weren't. So because they were not getting them fingerprinted and getting those clearance checks done properly, we had to discontinue that service.
Mm.
At Kennett, since we work with OPA, we have a talent acquisition course, and we constantly hire. We keep subs at all times, and it has been tough with background checks, but we just keep hiring and keep job openings, keep them open, the recs. So
At Rittner, we have about 12 openings right now, which is not terrible, but it's not great. And we're able to, with the less kids in the schools and stuff like that, we're able to work at bare minimum right now. Is staff happy when I have to say, hey, you need to go over here, or you need to go over there? Not always, because they are so comfortable in their school, but most of them are willing to give them up. It's the managers that don't want to give up their employees, which they know that they're overstaffed at this point in time in some schools. So, but.
What we've done in our district is we had yard signs printed, and we put them in front of all the schools and let them know that they can work while their kids are in school. A lot of the churches have allowed us to put them in front of their facilities, and even the Walmarts. We try to hit some of the businesses that will allow us to do that. We also worked with our HR department, and we post all of our positions on Indeed, and that has helped out. And we have several not assisted living, but maintenance-free communities where older people, retired people are living. And a lot of those retired people are still wanting to work and able to work, and they just need a little bit to supplement their income. So they're perfect for our 3-hour positions. So we've targeted that also. We're still not fully staffed. At one time we were down about 35 staff members. And we were trying to pull from one school to another. I had to give part of my staff to our before and after school service program. We were reassigning, but it was still coming out of my budget, but we've gotten creative. It's kind of where that was a good excuse for us to go back to sometimes we wanted to get the participation up, and I always talk meals per labor hour. So I kind of used that, and then would pull from one school that wasn't getting their meals per labor hour to another school. So that kind of backed us. So there wasn't any hard feelings, because it's hard to leave your school when, you're assigned to one school. So that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, and somebody, attendee Susan said sometimes the problem with recruiting food service staff is that it's not a paid year-round position. But I really like the idea of appealing to people who maybe have children in school and are not looking to work outside of those hours. But it sounds like it's a challenge across districts. We have one question that's sort of COVID related, and then I want to go back. There's a couple about school meals and breakfast. So one attendee asks, when do you have any sense of when you'll not have to wear masks or face coverings in the kitchens? Has your school named a plan for that yet, or is it still up in the air?
Our district still requires students and staff to wear their face masks at all times, except for if they're in a room by themselves or whatever, and there's walls around you. But in a classroom setting, absolutely, they have to wear their mask, and so do the students. And if the student doesn't have one, they give them one or something like that. But no, we're required still. And I'm sure it'll be even going into the next year until things start calming down again.
My estimate, go ahead, Joe.
No, go ahead, Paul. It's all right.
My estimation would be that if you staffing are in the kitchen together and everyone's vaccinated, they'll be able to take off their mask. If they're not all vaccinated, then they're going to have to wear masks. And as well as in the public, serving students will be wearing masks again next school year. So I think some of those could change a little bit again with the vaccinations, but again, it's depending on how many people in the kitchen get that done. But again, everything else in public, I still think this is going to continue. Now, one thing that you got to look at, some of the benefits that did make a difference is that, less colds, less other flus. And that might be something we look at in the future, as in if you have a minor illness in the future and it's a cold, we might ask you to wear a mask maybe. I'm not saying that for sure, but it's just not a bad idea to help prevent the viruses and bacteria out from with you out in the surfaces area. So it's something to think about that it might be a recommendation. But I've known that's been a big plus, is that, if you haven't gotten COVID, but you might not have gotten a cold or anything else as well. So it can help.
All I was going to say is City of Branson, the alderman just voted to end the mask mandates in Branson May 24th of this year. So really until that ends, the district's not going to change policy on that.
So it sounds like a lot could be driven by both the guidelines and what's coming out, at a state level, and then the vaccination rollout, as that continues, which I know, I think I read that Missouri is opening it to all eligible or all adults starting April 9th is the plan. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. A couple of comments came through about recruitment and staffing, so I'll mention those and then we'll circle back to some of the other questions. One person commented that they've really, in terms of recruitment, pushed the benefits of having nights and weekends off, insurance for their full-time employees. Some, it sounds like, do offer pay year-round, and then free meals. So there's, a mixture of benefits. And another person said they have focused on the middle school parents for employment as part of the hybrid return on April 5th. So it sounds like kind of that target audience of parents who are looking for employment, but looking to work within the hours of their kids being in school. We have one question about sort of breakfast in the classroom, which sounds like has just been wildly successful when implemented in terms of engagement. And Elizabeth asks, when you do the breakfast in the classrooms, do the students get a choice on their breakfast? Is it hot breakfast? What types of meals have that been?
I've done a little bit of everything, and it kind of depends on grade levels. So with our little kids, it's a tough choice for them to decide, even during the regular school year, if they want scrambled eggs or cereal. That can be a very big decision to make. And so we realize with breakfast in the classroom, we need to be fast and efficient. So for our youngest children, pre-K through first grade, they basically don't have the choice. They basically have one choice every day. So we do cereal a couple of days a week. And then we do a warm breakfast other days of the week, but all things that are simple for them to take, because I'm not providing trays. We do not bag it. We wheel down to the classrooms, basically on our bun pan racks, and we have all of the food on there. And then we hand the kids the components, and then they carry it to their desks. We found that that's the most efficient way for us. You start getting into the intermediate level, then they have a choice of a hot breakfast or cereal each day. And along with, a cereal side, and then they've got their fruit and they've got their milk. And then again, junior high and high school kids, they've got a full choice. Just about everything that we were serving prior to the pandemic is available for them right now.
For us, K through 8, we do grab and go. They pick it up at the door. We offer both hot and cold. We've started doing like sausage biscuits. We do the mini pancakes that you heat in the warmer. We do not do cereal. That was one thing that we had to agree with principals, that we would not offer cereal in the classroom because the students always spilt the milk when they were trying to pour it in the bowls. So we do have the cereal packs, but the kids know they can't pour the milk in those. Our high school level is hot breakfast. They have 3 or 4 different choices. And then we also offer grab and go also for them, because a lot of them like to take it back to their classroom. So we kind of do a little bit of everything, and we always have a bowl of fresh fruit out. So if they want extra fruit to take with them, and we offer different flavors of milk. And we've also just started back our smoothies. We do a smoothie program, and the kids are really happy to have that back. And as long as you keep the papers on the straws, you can hand them their cups, and the teachers and the students are both happy with that.
We are doing at the elementary and middle school only cold right now. We can bag it up ahead. They grab it as they come through, take their choice of milk and go. Middle school and high school, we are doing some hot breakfasts at least a couple of times a week. We're offering the hot breakfast, and they can either, if they're eating in the cafeteria at the high school, or if they're taking it back to their classroom with them, it'd be on a styrofoam tray for them. So that's how we're doing breakfast.
We
K through
serve-
8. Oh, go on, Mindy.
Mindy and then Dina.
Yep.
We serve a cereal about once a week, and then we do 4 hot options for the rest of the week. I do hope that for 21-22 school year that we can offer the second chance breakfast like we offered prior to COVID. That's something that we haven't been able to do.
We just do grab and go. We do the mini pancakes, we do the cereal bars, we do cereal, we do everything that we can think of to do. So we do grab and go in the mornings, and they just pick it up. But elementary level right now, all the totes and stuff like that and coolers are actually at the classroom when they get there. So
Okay. So efficiency being kind of the name of the game with some of these. I laugh because somebody else commented no syrup for breakfast either with the milk. Where you mentioned,
Yeah.
with the younger kids, it can be messy. So another, I think this is a great question. Have any of your districts collaborated with other organizations to offer additional food access outside of the meals offered in school hours? And if you have, what has worked or not worked? So they're looking for food support to families that might occur outside of the school meals.
We have not.
We have about 4 churches that offer food pantries, and they'll offer hot meals. And then we have Lee Summit Social Services also. We don't necessarily work with them. They provide their own food, but we have kind of given them target areas, especially if there needs to be meal delivery, some of the lower income neighborhoods and some of the apartment complexes. And we've been working with them already for summer school. They wanted to know what our plans were, because normally several of these organizations, once we're done with summer school, they take up where we leave off in July into August. So we kind of have been letting them know, what's going on. And I'm laughing at Susan Kidwell's comment about no syrup in the classroom. Definitely, you do not offer anything with syrup either. So that I had to laugh at that comment.
Yes, I agree. Thanks for the flavored pancakes. They don't even seem to care. They don't get syrup.
This summer, Kennett worked with the local food bank, and we delivered food for them. We offered, there was bags of potatoes and fresh produce and cereal. So that works pretty well.
Awesome. Perfect. Are there other practices you all hope to implement next year? Things you maybe haven't gotten to try but would like to, like Jill, you mentioned advocating for the breakfast in the classroom for a long time. Are there other things you guys hope to be able to see going into the next academic year?
I think my biggest hope is going back to a lot more normal, lunch program. Right now, we're putting everything on the trays for the kids. At first, we were doing their milk, their napkins, every condiment. We didn't let the kids touch anything other than the tray that they had, which means every person in your kitchen is on that serve line trying to ask the children, because we're still trying to offer choices for them as well, because we know that's really important if they're going to actually eat those fruits and vegetables. So trying to ask them if they want, this fruit or this fruit, or the different vegetables. So I'm really looking forward to the kids scooping again. I've got actually a call into the health department. We keep missing each other because I really want to do it and start it this year and get back to the kids serving their own salad bar type items at the high school levels and see what we can do to slowly implement that, because they are allowing people self-service in restaurants. So maybe we can start that with our kids again as well. But I'm looking for that part of the normalcy. I want breakfast in the classroom forever. I really want to keep that to stay. I think it works great. And obviously we've had a lot of successes with it. But I want to see the kids have more choices, because we can expand even more if the kids are scooping it themselves.
And it sounds like it also correlate to the staffing issue, having to.
It is, because it takes it's so much more stressful on my crews to have to be there and scoop everything and try and hear kids in a mass speak back. and they're wearing a mask on what they want, and just that communication is so hard on that serve line. So that part will really help us. Because we're putting it all on the trays for them. We don't do a lot of pre-packaging. We're using regular trays to try to keep costs down. But again, we are seeing lunches are up. I mean, while they're free, again, we've seen good participation and our numbers are strong. I really hope that keeps for next year as well.
I agree with Jill. I have a call into our health department also because we had just implemented garden bars in all of our elementaries and middle schools. I had just received word when we were closed down last March that I had 6 brand new salad bars coming from the Chef Ann Foundation. We have utilized those, putting some grab and go breakfast and pushing those down to the hallway. But we want those fresh fruits and vegetables back. We want our farm to school program back. We do nutrition councils once a month that we have all buildings involved in. We had started a cooking club for elementaries, and we want to get all of that back. There's just, the kids are missing out on so much. It's hard enough to get nutrition education out to them the way it is, and all the little things that we have been doing and the big things we have been doing, we kind of had to quit. So just getting everything back to normal so we can start all that up again. That's my biggest wish and that's my hope. And I'm planning on doing some of those.
Yes, and to touch on something that Jill said as well, with the staffing, with the kids not serving themselves the fruits and the vegetables, of course, our staff is having to do that. And so we're telling them, our staff now get to plate everything. Yet all but one of my kitchens is down at least one person right now. So we're telling them, okay, you all get to start serving everything. Oh, and with less people. And so of course that's a big issue for everybody as well.
Wow. Definitely. I mean, it sounds like there's plenty of challenges, but successes. I mean, I think everybody's been really excited to hear about this breakfast in the classroom because it sounds like every single one who's implemented it has had success. So I definitely hope we can see that continue. As I'm mindful of the time, I do want to spend, if we have a minute or two where I'd love to go around and have each of you spend about a minute just sharing if there's any other high-level lessons, things you just wish someone had told you, or best practices that you'd just like to share with the audience. And then I'll put up a couple of resources on the screen as we prepare to close out.
I'll go ahead and start. I think there's quite a bit of lessons we've learned and things that we'd probably change for next school year. One, as we talked about, is staffing being flexible. To me, is that every staff now you're assigned to a building, but you're also assigned anywhere in the district. So next school you're going in, we're going to let you know that even though you go to one school, you might be moving. So don't expect just to be staying at one school because we have to feed all the kids in the district, not just at your school. Being mentally ready. I mean, this has taught us some year that it's challenges we've never dealt with before. Coming in mentally ready and being prepared to come to work. Put all the other things aside that you have going on in your life and worry about what we got to do to take care of these kids and your teammates as well. I think everybody has to help each other out a little bit. And sometimes could be just some pick-me-ups for the day. I think that we talk about staffing and staffing backup plans, that we got to make sure that we have something in place when someone's out in your kitchen, how we gonna staff that in multiple kitchens. Importance again of hand washing, how much that we've talked about, with this virus, but any other viruses out there, we've got to continue the hand washing techniques, the sanitizing, and that's something that's got to stay in the future. Supplier diversity. So if you think about the things that you've had difficulties in getting your food, drinks, and our paper products, you better have some backup plans because as we found out, you ran a lot out of different things throughout the school year that says if it's paper bags or whatever the things that you have been serving with, you need to have some backup plans. And I think that'll help you in the future. And the importance of emergency preparedness and planning. As we could see that, it's not a tornado that's affected Joplin in just one specific area. This happened to the whole country. And so we got to start looking at how can we start planning for the future if things like this would happen, and the mentality that it can't happen to our district or to me. So start having some plans to be ready that things like this happen. We've got a blueprint of what we're going to do. Staff education, again, a lot of things that we're doing. Again, keeping your staff updated with the communication and information that's going on that's very up to date. If there's a change in the mask policy, let your staff know right away. They want to be on top of the information. They're the ones who are on the front line with us. We got to take care of them as much as possible. Staying home when you're sick. Has this taught us anything that if you are not feeling well, don't come to work, please? And no one else wants you to come to work either. So I think that's really helped us all out by saying, if you don't feel well, I would appreciate you to go ahead and stay home. And I guess just looking at products that we might be able to use that's a little bit more flexible in the future too. So some things that you might not be able to use because it's an IW item only, what other items can we use to that might be a good substitute? And I think that we've got to keep some of those items in mind. That's all for me.
Thank you, Paul.
I think one of the successes of the challenges that we've had is when we've been able to contact the building principals and say to them, look, we're down 4 people out of a staff of 6 in your building today, and we have 0 people left to move out there. How can you guys help us? Is there something that we can do? And so we had many principals step in. We've had directors of technology, like I said earlier, the superintendents, all willing to step in and do it. And I think one of the things that is great for them when they are on that serve line is really realizing just how physically hard that job is and how much work goes into it, how important the numbers are when the teachers do provide us numbers of kids participating, and how we work those numbers. And just scooping mashed potatoes is not an easy feat for everybody. And so it gave them kind of a new respect. I had a new boss this year that took over as the executive director of over all of the support staff operations. And so, his first thing was dealing with the pandemic just about. And so again, all of us working together and coming together was huge. And I think Laurie had talked about that earlier, is that really allowed them to earn some respect for us and the hard work that our crews do every single day serving those kids and seeing how important it is. Like, what is the most important thing that happened in the pandemic? Feeding people, making sure that they had food that they need. Education's important. I don't want to take anything away from that, but if you don't have food to live, you can't learn. And so I think that people really realize that we are the foundation that sets that. So I just thought that was a great opportunity. I felt like the principals and the teachers and a lot of, like I said, our superintendents got a chance to see that as well. They got to see that, by being self-supporting and by having, good numbers and feeding these kids also saved our program. During the pandemic, in 8 weeks, we served over 173,000 meals. If we hadn't done that, we would have lost money. But because we did that and we pulled together, we were able to fully fund our program, and we actually came out to the good, came out ahead of budget numbers that we were expecting. The other thing that I thought was really cool in the planning process was transportation. Like when we had our first meeting, the transportation director was there, and I didn't really understand that. Well, he's got an incredible program that you can just go in there and just randomly circle any area of our school district, and it'll tell you not only how many kids are enrolled in that area, but how many of those kids are in free and reduced.
Mhm.
So when we did our pandemic feeding, we took meals to the kids because we were worried about people going out and coming to us, and how do we do that? So I thought that was really cool that I didn't even know that was a resource that was out there. And so we could plan bus stops and, break our entire district into basically 12 locations of feeding. And then I could use that for planning purposes. So it really takes everybody to pull off a successful emergency feeding program. And it also takes everybody's willingness, like Paul said, that everyone on staff, including superintendents and teachers and paras, everyone was willing to help feed our kids because they realized how important it was. And we've all come together to get that done. So I think that's a huge success.
That's great.
Well, I think that the biggest lesson we learned, and everybody else probably, is to plan for what you absolutely do not expect. I remember probably 20 years ago or more working in senior living, having flu pandemic training and planning. And I also remember thinking, this isn't going to happen. And, you know, you plan for things that you don't expect to ever happen. And then you kind of put it on the back burner and you kind of forget about it. But this has brought it right to the forefront for every single person, you know, not just here in Missouri, in the country, in the world. And last March, actually today was our first day back from spring break. A year ago, we didn't come back from spring break. And I know that that happened with you know, obviously a whole lot of districts across the country, but just planning, changing your plans and being able to adapt. And I think that's the biggest lesson is, I think Paul said, make sure you're communicating with the community, with the families, with the administrators, with your staff, and just make sure that everybody knows, here's what we're doing, here's what's needed, here's what you need to do, you need to do. And everybody just jumps in and follows and helps and does whatever they need to do to help. And I think that that's going forward, it's just going to be able to adapt. I think that's, you know, the biggest thing for all of us.
I agree with Joyce and Paul both. One of my goals actually at the beginning of last year was to come up with a disaster plan for our department because we didn't have one. And when I presented that to the board, they kind of laughed and they says, well, really the only thing that could happen here is a tornado. And sure enough, once we closed down last March and that very next board meeting when we were virtual, they all looked at me and they pointed at me and they said, this is your fault. They were joking, but you know, we didn't have a plan in place. So I had been working on a plan, thank goodness. And that helped because we know now anything can happen. So planning is a crucial thing.
Thank you, Laurie.
There were plenty of times that we would plan something. They would say, okay, in 2 weeks, we're going to do this. And then our numbers kind of started going up again. So the superintendent stopped it and said, nope, now we're going to go back to virtual. And we're like, oh my goodness. So we have to change the menu and then change the staffing hours and change, you know, it's kind of a mess for a little bit. But I mean, we did the little, oh no, what are we going to do? And then we calmed down and everybody was fine. But that adapting, they did great. So, you know, kudos to the staff. But I agree with everybody. Adapting was the hardest thing to do.
Mindy, any final thoughts from you?
I think the same thing. It's just adapting to change and continue to train staff on safety, and then continuing to hire, and then communicate with the district on all levels.
Wow. Well, thank you guys so much. We're just a minute or two over. I am going to share one screen just so we can share the email addresses of the panelists. And this will also go out in a follow-up email to the attendees. We thank you guys so much for spending your time with us today and sharing your best practices and expertise. I mean, I know I learned a lot and we had some great questions. I'm hoping you guys will get some people following up with you to ask specific questions about what your district is doing. But thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to hearing more later in the year, hopefully about what's going on for the fall academic year.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
hosting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.